Hello, everyone. Hey, this is Doug Wilkerson with Central Christian Center and Saturday Night Live Life Recovery. Glad you're with us today. As I was getting the all the computer and everything wired up, I had this thought when I put on Life Recovery. Some people may not understand why I use that term because um, life is messy and Jesus came to help us to turn our messy life from upside down to right side up, and it's about recovery. It's not just about behavior modification. In my earlier years, I was taught a lot of behavior modification, which is not all bad, but see, it doesn't. You can change the outside or your behaviors, but if you don't have the recovery on the inside, if you don't heal that soul sickness that we have that keeps dragging us off into the ditch or the pits, then we're only as good as our willpower, and our willpower doesn't last. Bottom line, and so that's the reason why we have to have this transformation on the inside. So, welcome. Hopefully, I can teach you something. I'm going to be teaching something I learned many, many, many years ago that really helped me because it was called the system of change. It's about the four stages of competency or growth. And that's where we go through a system or we go through different phases or we go through levels or it's a process. Okay. And I've always been a systematic type person. If I can see the system, then I can begin to work the system, and then I can learn the system, and then I can implement the system, and that helps me. God is a processing God to me. I see His process in everything. Now, you may not, so this may not be helpful to you, but for myself and people that are similar to me, that is very helpful to help me to learn how to drive this life car down the life road or path and stay in between the white lines to be able to get to my destination or my journey's end, and and also maybe help some people on the way. So anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about here, and it's been it's been very important to me, and hopefully I can communicate this to you to help you. So those four stages of competency, and I'm going to read them to you. I'll read them a couple different times throughout my message here, but it's unconscious incompetency, unconscious incompetency. Next stage is conscious incompetency, conscious incompetency. Third level or stage, conscious competency. Okay, conscious competency. And then the fourth stage, final stage, is unconscious competency. Okay, we'll we'll try to break this down, and I'll use some other words to try to bring understanding and meaning to these things. But we're talking about four stages of growth. All right, I want to give you some scriptures to start off with here. This is out of Hosea 4:6. It says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." We have to know something, and that's what I'm talking about here today. Is I'm trying to give you some information. Information is information, where you're trying to get things formed up and straightened up and lined up, focused up, so that you can take uh, information that maybe feels like it's in a disordered way, but ordering it in a way that it becomes formed so that it's applicable to your life, to your thoughts, to your system. So, Hosea 4:6, it says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." So we need to know some things. Okay. We also need to have that vision to where we want to go. But we're talking about primarily is trying. We're being focused here today on stages of growth and being able to form this information. The emphasis here is importance on the awareness of knowledge. We need to grow in our awareness because there's a lot of things we don't know. If you don't know what you don't know, then you're messed up. You're getting ready to fall into a hole. So we have to be open to what we don't know so that we can begin to learn it. So then we know it. Next scripture is out of Hebrews 5:14, and it says, "But solid food is for the mature." Okay. I'm just going to let you fill in the gaps on that. "For those who have their powers of discernment trained trained." I want you to catch that word trained. Okay. Their discernment trained by uh, constant practice to distinguish good and evil. Okay, so we want to train up our this internal power to help us to be able to discern, train up our consciousness. Train it means you not only do you know it, but then you have to practice what you know so that you get it from your just your conscious mind into your unconscious mind, so that in that practicing you'll be able to distinguish automatically good from evil. Okay, that's out of Hebrews 4:16. This is talking about describing maturity and proficiency developed through constant practice. If you've heard me before, I say, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Because if you practice the wrong thing, then you just make a permanent wrong thing in your life. So we practice makes permanent. So we need to practice that is good, that is perfect, which lines up with the will of God, and so that it becomes more predominant in our life. Okay, so go back to that word train. Okay, to train means this. It says it's to hedge in. Okay, we're trying to build some runners, so to speak, or hedges to keep us in the white. On the roads, we got the white lines that help us tell us where we're not supposed to be. But here it's talking about a hedge. It's actually you create a barrier to keep yourself in the right spot. It says to put walls around. Okay, boundaries. Okay, healthy boundaries. It says to narrow the way. Okay, to narrow the way. You stay focused on where you're going to go. You narrow it down. When they put blinders on in the old days, which they do still, but mostly is to narrow their vision so they don't get distracted by all this other stuff or get spooked or just kind of take off. I have a dog. My wife's got several dogs, and if we take them out into the yard on a leash, a year or so ago, I had one. We had one and then a squirrel came along, and he liked to jerk my arm out of the socket. Okay, because I wasn't paying attention to him either, but he saw the squirrel and he took off, and he's a big dog. He comes up about right here to my pants waist. So anyway, so we train, we dedicate, we train up to train, we dedicate. uses some of the same terminology over and over. But this uh, this is a word from Hebrews, out of the Strong's Concordance H2596, and then a related word out of Hebrews, which, well, that's what the H is about, is H2614. It says it compares to the other word that it properly to narrow, to configurely, to or to discipline, to dedicate, to train up. So, we're probably more familiar with the scripture out of Timothy, where it says, for those while training, uh, training is some value, where it talks about physical exercise, that it's good, but spiritual exercise is better, and that's we've kind of already talked about that. Another scripture that's kind of familiar with talking about training, and that is out of Proverbs 22:6. It says, "Train up a child in the way that he or she should go," and that's giving them those guidelines to help them to know, um, so they don't have to. They have something to go off of. They still have to implement it into their life. They still have to practice it, but you see it, and they have a chance to make a mistake at a lower level in life, and then correct it before they get into a place where they're going so fast that they can make big mistakes, if you know what I mean. So so we need to train not only our children, but we also need to train ourselves. That's what this is all about. So the system of change, or the system of growth, these four things, I'm going to list them again. I'm going to say them again for you, and then we're going to start working through them. And hopefully, I'm not going too long, but I can't even see a clock right now. So, so here we are. The four stages of growth or competency: unconscious incompetency. Okay, unconscious incompetency. Number one, conscious competency. Two, conscious competency. Okay. All right. We had incompetency, and then we have competency. We're moving as we grow up, grow better, more mature. And then we go, and it says unconscious competency. And I'll explain what that means right now. We want to start on that. So, are you ready? Here we go. So, unconscious incompetency. All right. At this stage, a person is unaware of their lack of skill, okay, or knowledge in a particular area. Okay. So what that means is, unconscious means they just don't know. They're unconscious. They're clueless, so to speak, okay, about a particular skill. Well, how do you know how to drive a car if when you're little, when you're young, you think driving, everybody can do it, okay, until you're placed in that seat, and you got all the different things you have to take care of, okay, or other things, as far as uh, 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 things that take skill and mastery to be able to navigate. So unconscious incompetence. Don't know what you don't know. You're incompetent. Okay, you just don't have that skill set as of yet. Okay, so in this stage of growth, we're just unaware or lack of skills or knowledge in a particular area. So we don't know that we don't know. Okay, we just don't know. How could you know if you don't know? But then, but all of a sudden, you're wondering how come things are not working out, and you see things are not happening, but you don't know why. That's level one. Level two, conscious. Conscious means you're aware. Conscious incompetency. You're aware now that you don't no, you don't get it. You don't have the skills. I don't know how to do that job. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to drive that car. I don't know how to drive that diesel or that um, you know equipment that needs to be done. Okay, because hadn't been trained yet, don't have the skills, haven't practiced the skills. All right, so they're unconsciously, they're consciously, now we know, incompetent. I don't know them. So here the individual recognizes their lack of competency in a specific skill or knowledge area. They become consciously aware. They become consciously aware. Okay, they wake up, so to speak, what they don't know. So, how do they know if they don't know? Well, when you figure out you don't know, then you start looking how to grow your understanding or your skill base. Does that make sense? And you start asking the right questions. Oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you make that? Okay. So, number three, conscious competency. Conscious competency. So, conscious is, in this stage, the person has developed the skills and the knowledge, but needs they need focus time and practice time to be able to implement what they've learned. Okay, and this competent as they become more competent, then they are able to achieve what they're looking for. But the only way that they can have the total conscious competency is that they have to begin to have concentrated on purpose, effort, or practice. They have to practice the skills that they're learning so that they can get them going from, because you're having to you have to stay and focus on it. And when you're learning a new job, it takes a lot of extra energy. But after a while, you learn that job and you don't have to pay a lot of attention to it because you've taken it from your consciousness into your unconsciousness. And the only way you can do that is by learning the skills and then practicing them consciously until that you have learned them well enough where they slip into your unconscious or non-conscious, and you're able to operate it. And then you can drive a car and have a conversation, do different things, or you can work at a job on a job, and you're able to function, but you don't have to fully have your concentration on it. You can be somewhat aware of what's going on, or talking, or having a conversation, or eating, or whatever. Right? Uh, Oftentimes, I listen to video programs, audio programs while I'm driving. Okay, and sometimes when it gets real complex, I either have to slow it down to normal because I listen to everything at twice the speed, but I have to slow it down, or I know that I'm just going to be going back and going back. And so anyway, we'll stop right there. So the answer here is that we have to learn, but now we must practice, 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 because practice makes permanent, right? All right. Now, number four, unconscious competency. All right. So you're competent now, and now we're talking about coming to the place where I just basically touched on, probably already talked about a little bit, that you're able to function in your competency unconsciously because it's so ingrained into your system now. And so at this stage, the skill or knowledge becomes second nature. Okay, and the individual can uh, uh, perform or apply its effort, perform it or apply it effortlessly, and without a extreme conscious thought. You don't have to stay totally focused in to make sure you're doing it. Like if you move and you move to a different house, and it's the first third of the drive or half of the drive is in the same general direction, like after work, which I've done in years gone by. You moved, and I'm driving home, and then all of a sudden you realize you just passed your turn because you weren't consciously focused on recommitting a new habit, how to drive home. So you had to turn around, come back, and turn around, and I remember on this one particular, and this is probably 45, 46, 47 years ago. I remember saying, now I have to be conscious or I'll miss my turn again. I have to be conscious. And I had to practice on trying to stay focused until I got it down where unconsciously I didn't have to pay attention. I ended up at the house. You know how that works. So um, it just automatically or unconsciously we've practiced enough where we have this habit pattern that will go ahead and run our lives because we practice healthy, good training to organize our life. But if we're not careful, we can get involved in world stuff. We can grow up in world stuff that we start practicing, and it can bend our life to go in unhealthy ways or destructive patterns if we're not careful. And we'll do it unconsciously again because we practiced it and now it's running our life. In fact, in neuroscience says that about 95% of all our decisions are made from our non-conscious or pre-programmed habit patterns that we have, because God made us so that we could have this system to work for us, so that we didn't have to consciously think about every little thing that we do. And we can't do that, or we'd just be totally wore out. So we have this system that is created to run it in our unconscious. Okay, I got a scripture here for you out of Romans 12:2, and this is my last scripture here. It says, uh, mm, "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." Okay, that's not. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Right. Okay. I couldn't find it, so I just was quoting it from memory, and I thought, well, maybe not. But this is Romans 12:2, and that is out of the King James. So we have to be open to new information so that we can line up with the truth. What do you want? Do you want to line up with the truth, what's in your best interest, or do you want to continue uh, biting on those hooks that drag you off into the bad places, into the ditches? I want to read a different translation. This is out of the NLT translation. It says, "Don't copy the behavior of customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think." By changing the way you think. Start lining your thoughts, your focus, practice the beliefs that you want to have in your life, and you practice them. Yes, I like that one. I know that one. I need to practice until it goes from my just requiring myself to have conscious focus that it's inside, and it can work automatically, and I just have to go back and touch it up every so often. Okay. So that you can change the way that you think. This is the last part of the 12:2 out of the NLT. Then you will learn to know God's good. You will learn to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect. I know that's a lot of words, a lot of stuff, but the bottom line here is you want to really focus on what it is that you want. What's in your best interest? What's going to make, or where do you want to go? Do you really want to have a good life? You want to turn your life around. You don't think it's possible, but that's just your thoughts. But you can turn it around. You can be transformed. Yes, it's hard. I know when I've tried to change my thoughts back when I was going to college and I drive back and forth to Pittsburgh. I drive from Galena to Pittsburgh to Webb City, and then Webb City back to Galena because that's where I was living at the time. And I would practice on trying to change my thinking because I realized I believed a lot of things that just was not true and was very destructive. And that's not what I wanted for my life and for my family. I wanted to try to make those adjustments. But we kind of grow up with we think the world's got to change, but you know what? The truth is, if I change, it affects the world. Think about that. So, till next time, hey, take care of yourself, and may the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you and give you His peace. Make healthy choices, and also, hey, be in church Sunday. Until next time, take care of yourself.